and he starts like spitting into the crowd and shit. And then a bunch of people like rush the stage.
Oh,
and fucking,
shit.
He got punched, and then security was like on it really quick.
Sure,
but
yeah.
And they haven't been back since, actually.
Shocker.
Yeah,
So
You know what it is. It's Stefan from Ejection Pact, and you're listening to the Scoped Exposure Podcast.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think without further ado, I think we're ready to get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure Podcast. Today, we're joined by 5 dudes and a dog on a couch. I'm joined today by Utah's own Victim to None. Very cool band from there. And yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. I'm really excited to be chatting with you.
yeah, thanks for having us, dude.
For the folks at home who are watching it, can we maybe do a left to right as far as hey, this is my name and this is what I do in the band. Nick, you're closest to me, so we'll go on the opposite side of the couch. Any of the audio listeners will just have to hear the voices and imagine the differences of people.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm Ian, and I play bass.
Sick.
I'm Remington, and I play guitar.
Do you ever go by? Sorry, Remington. Do you ever go by Remy by chance?
Yeah, Remy, Remington, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, I only asked because in my band, our bass player's name is Remy, but he's French, so I don't know if his full name is Remington. I'll have to ask them the next time I'm chatting with him.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Love it. I'm Elliot, and I do vocals.
Very cool.
I'm Tyler, I do guitar.
Cool. And I'm Nick, I play drums, and I produced and mixed the EP and everything too. So.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since I've had a full band here on the podcast. If I'm remembering correctly, I definitely haven't had a 5-piece all in one podcast. So there's a lot of firsts going on this episode, which is very cool. But yeah, like I was just saying before, Victim to None is a band that I personally majorly fuck with, and how it kind of came onto my radar like really, really quick before we start getting into the conversation is when you guys were putting out Relentless Wrath, it was my friend Tyler from No Right who was sharing a clip of a show that you guys played, and then I think that's how we got connected. And I think Nick and I were just going back and forth that you guys drove like 12 or 10 hours or something just to play that one show. And so I always love the serendipity of hardcore as far as just like one little thing triggers the next event and the snowball effect just starts from there.
Yeah. We're friends with the No Right guys and Drain as well. So when they said come out to California and play, it's like, fuck yeah, might as well.
Of course.
And we ended up playing that show. And then I think, was it just the 2 shows that? I think it was.
In Bakersfield after.
Yeah. And then we ended up hopping on a show with Gulch like the next day, like super last minute.
Oh, wow.
So at least we got 2 shows out of the drive, but
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. How far of a drive is that for the folks who might not know as much American geography?
Yeah, it's like 10 to 12 hours from Salt Lake to the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's I think in Western Canada, like we're so spread out that we're totally used to those 8 to 10 to 12 hour drives. I think 10 to 12 hours is kind of the rough time frame from going from here to Vancouver, which is the next major hardcore hub on the coast. But without dragging on, very excited to be chatting with you guys. Before we get into the meat of the conversation, we have to do our bev check here. I'm very excited to be premiering something with you guys, but it's tradition here for the guests, all 5 of you guys to go first. So tell the folks at home what you're going to be sipping on.
I got a can of fucking ice cold dew here.
Sick.
I think Rev and I are sharing. Oh, there you have it.
Just got some water.
Nice.
Yeah, I got some water. Boring.
Yeah, water got myself. I used to do a dew, and then I started getting too fat, so laid off the dew.
And Ian, you're just doing regular Mountain Dew, nothing crazy.
Oh, dew heavies
Dew.
on the classic.
Oh,
We don't do that light bullshit, okay?
I didn't know there was light Mountain Dew.
It's dew zero.
Oh, I see.
Same shit.
Yeah.
They got diet dew.
Diet,
Mountain
Mountain
Dew,
Diet.
yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, light dew, dew light, or I'm not
Light.
one of those. Yeah, is Mountain Dew or water just like the standard as far as like the jam space? Like, do you guys have a fridge, or is it just kind of like everyone brings their own?
I usually, so we're in my studio right now, and we just had like the live room as our jam space.
Yeah.
And so I have a mini fridge here, and I just typically just do water and dew. Sometimes if somebody asks me to get something, I'll do it. I think I have like one Coors that somebody left here.
Yeah.
So
just one
it's
lone
been-
Coors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there for like 3 weeks. Nobody's touched it. I think they're too scared or something, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair.
It's usually just doing water.
Yeah. Well, like, and I've said this multiple times on the show, like water is the most important bev, as far as hydration is concerned. So, shout out to 3 of 5 of you who are like prioritizing that. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure how much of you guys have been tuning in to the episodes, but a huge goal of mine for season 2 of this podcast was to get some bev sponsorships, because that's a huge, passion of mine outside of, hardcore. So this is a first, which is very, very exciting to say. By the time this comes out, the announcement will already be out that we're sponsored by a brewery here in Calgary called New Level, but this is the very first sponsored bev check, which is very cool. So it's a raspberry sour, called Pinball Wizard. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to be drinking that. I'm like kind of saving those for any of the evening, evening time podcasts. So, we're recording this at like 8 p.m. or something. So yeah, I'm super excited. This is a christening, if anything.
Nice.
So
Congratulations. That's cool.
yeah. It's we got a couple other things in the works, but the folks at New Level have been nothing but like come by once a month and just fill up with what you need. So shout out to Drew and all those folks there. Cheers to you guys. Really excited to be having this podcast and chat with y'all.
Yeah.
So, because I've never had this many, usually it's a one-on-one conversation. So now that we're having, multiple people, I have some specific questions that hit on, different roles of the band. But normally I like to intro all my episodes with like, how did you get into hardcore, kind of like the origin story for everyone. But because, if we did one of those for everyone, we would be like here well into the night. So I thought it'd be fun if we just if we went around and did one word explaining the reason that you're in, the space of heavy music now. It won't we won't just say one word and we'll just move on to the next person, but I'm kind of curious what you guys would say, and then I'll ask some follow-up questions on that part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So, we started with Ian on that side of the couch. Maybe we'll start with Nick.
Oh my gosh.
If there's one word, and that could be a band name, that could be, a meaning behind heavy music. What's the one word for you? And then we'll break that down a little bit.
It's so hard with one word. I guess it's we'll go with punk. Now I can expand on that later or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is all like a first trial, but yeah, like break that down for me.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, like, the roots of punk, I'm more into like punkier hardcore, I guess, myself. And it started with like a big reasonable straight edge I would just go through and look at like all Seventh Dagger bands on there and just listen. And a lot of those are fairly punk inspired.
Mhm.
So I would just go and check out these record labels that had all these like straight edge bands or hardcore punk bands. And so that's kind of still what I like, is like the more punkier side of stuff of the hardcore. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. Sorry, we're gonna tangent a little bit, but what's the dog's name? I feel
Oh
like
yeah, sorry, I forgot to introduce her. This is my dog Sweets. We just
Swedes.
me and my wife adopted her like 3 weeks ago. And
Oh,
she's
okay.
like, since I work from home, she's like totally a daddy's girl and just wants to be with me all the time. So she's our guest today.
Yeah, she's like the unofficial band mascot
Yeah,
to a T.
absolutely.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, you're next to Nick there. How about you go next?
I would just say like riffs. I just like the guitar style, just like the thrashy, like mixing thrash with punk is like always the stuff that I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the first bands I got into were like Trapped Under Ice and like Backtrack, just like some of those classics. So
Yeah. Were there other call it more like radio metal riff bands that you were listening to growing up as well?
I mean, I loved like Linkin Park and stuff like that, like new metal stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like stuff like that. I was into younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, definitely like Backtrack and Trapped Under Ice were kind of those, I guess, like Trapped Under Ice was the big kind of gateway hardcore band for me, and just like having really like bouncy riffs and then like really hard and punishing stuff that would just like hit you like a ton of bricks. So yeah, that makes sense. And we're definitely gonna be chatting about the overall riffs and the importance of riffs later on in the episode. Elliot, what about you?
If it had to be one word, I don't know, probably movement.
Okay.
And to elaborate on that, ever since, so when I approached Rem with the idea of the band initially, like 2 years ago, 3?
About that.
3 years ago.
And I wanted something that would really just that would allow all of our friends and everybody who showed up to any of the shows to really be able to like get into every aspect of the songs. Not like, because you sit around for some bands and some of it's like you stand and this and which isn't bad, but I thought it'd be super cool to have a band that was just really constantly trying to get people to move to something.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, yeah, I really like that. Something that we'll touch on later on as far as the EP. Well, yeah, maybe I can just bring it up now. But when Nick sent me you guys this like press kit, there was a quote on there that really stuck out to me as far as the latest releases being a pissed off this is a quote, but a pissed off record that you can jam front to back and still get the energy of live music without going to a live show. We'll definitely touch on that a little bit later, but that exactly what you said is mirrored with that statement. And I definitely feel like a lot of your guys' songs are very intentional about keeping a certain energy level, like as soon as the song starts to the very end. So yeah, no, that's very good. And I know a lot of people can attest to just hardcore just being an energy leveled or an energy infused genre of music. So yeah, that's very cool. Rem, you're next.
I would have to say tone. I'm a tone chaser, so I'm always trying to find the best tone, and that's what I love about hardcore is there's so many different styles of guitar playing out there that comes across like thrash, like crossover, like really heavy. So I don't know. With this EP, I really tried to have that like more vintage style of tone, but a little bit of that chorus to punch through when we play some of the heavier parts. So I mean, I'm a tone chaser, and that's kind of all it's about with me. So
yeah, it's so funny. Like some of the things you guys are bringing up are like points that we will be like I plan to hit on eventually in this. I'm like, there's no way that they can see this. So how do they know that I have these questions prepared? But yeah, definitely, definitely, I think hardcore is a weird thing where, like, I was working at a music store and I was working with people who were very into like gent music and like very like ones and zeros like metal. And for me it was always like, okay, like tone is important for any style of heavy music, but when you're being so like mathematical with it versus like how can I build a rig that, you know, is actual pieces, you know, it is an analog sound versus it's all digital and, you know, can be updated from a cloud or whatever. So we'll hit on that in a bit, but yeah, that's a great point and great word to bring up. Ian, you're last.
Yeah, for me, it was, I would say growing up, it was like riffs, really. Kind of like Tyler. Growing up with Rem here, we were raised playing instruments and guitar and stuff like that. So just hearing like Metallica and some of the older like thrash bands like Pantera or Slayer or whatever,
Right.
that it's just like always what I've always wanted to play and always wanted to listen to, and just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. Are you guys related?
Yeah, we're brothers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sometimes there have been times. I don't know if you guys know of a band from Fargo called Swing Low. Um, they're kind of like a crossover hardcore band, very similar. But I think one of the first times that I had met them, I just assumed that Don, the vocalist, and Jesse, the bass player, were brothers because they looked very similar, and they just like laughed so hard at that remark. They're like, "No, we are not brothers." So I like always try my best not to assume there's a bloodline connected, but that's, you know, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So Elliot, you hit on it a little bit just before, just, you know, how the band started. The first release that I can see here from you guys is in 2018. I don't know if the band maybe formed a little bit earlier and then put that out, but talk to me about the origin of the band and kind of how things started to get going.
So I played instruments growing up, but I was never great. And I felt like writing was more of my strong suit.
Okay.
And I've known Rem for a while, and he was always been a wicked guitar player. So I was trying to convince him for a while. I like had some riffs that I wrote and like they were shitty, but it had the idea of what kind of thought, you know, like the thought of what kind of band I was wanting to form. And I was like, look, I wrote these. I'm not trying to play guitar in this because I know you will do a way better job than me.
Sure.
And so I was cutting his hair at the time. And so we went out to his car and like we played it through his car. And then and he's like, all right, like I kind of see what you're going for. And he was like, this could be cool. And so we're like, all right. So then we've gone through some band members since then, and all awesome people. And then just one by one, we kind of convinced other people to get in on it. Next was Tyler. We were like recording some of the stuff at his house first, and it was the same thing. We're like, dude, you should play in this. And at first he's like, no, bro, I'm not gonna be in another band. There's no fucking way.
Of course.
And then again,
famous last words.
Yeah. And then after a few times of like recording and like being around Rem and I and some of the other guys at the time, Tyler was like, damn, I think I like this. I think I'm down to start playing this. And kind of the same story for everybody else. Then Nick was similar. It was like, I started. And
well, I remember I wasn't initially in the band when they had the first EP. I recorded it, and I remember Rem came over because we've been playing music together for like 10 years at this point. But he showed me some of the demos that they did at Tyler's house, and I was like, holy shit, this is so sick. I gotta be a part of this somehow. Like, you guys have to let me record you. This is so fucking sick. This is like exactly my kind of shit. It's got like the perfect amount of like thrash, punk, like a little bit of metal, like heavy shit to it. It was just badass. So I was like, you have to let me record this. So yeah, I ended up recording the first EP, and then I played bass. because they needed a bass player by the
okay.
time the record was done. So I was like, hell yeah, just stoked to be a part of it. So that was how I got into it.
Yeah.
I remember Nick before he was in the band and before like anybody, I think it was before we put anything out or before anybody had listened to any of it. And Rem had told me, he's like, bro, Nick was like jamming it at his house, and he was like, that's the first time I've moshed in my room since I was like 13. I was like, fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, I was fucking pumped on that, man. Still am.
I was so hyped off that, dude.
Yeah. Fast forward to now, and everyone's like, practicing their moves for when shows come back, and just the bedroom mosh ratio, before and after COVID is astronomical. That's cool to hear, Nick, that you originally were recording the band and then doing bass, and then I guess was moving to drums just out of necessity because a lineup change or something like that.
Well, Tyler,
he actually played drums.
Tyler started on drums.
Oh wow, okay.
And then went to guitar.
And then he switched over to guitar because the guitar player that we had at the time he left, and so we're like, we have two good drummers, so let's put him on guitar because he always wanted to play guitar, and let's put him on drums because it just makes sense that way. And then we had my brothers always played bass in other bands, so we're like, this just makes more sense.
So is everyone in the band called it like a multi-instrumental person? There's no one in the band who only plays guitar or one specific thing?
I guess you could say that we all kind of can play.
Yeah, except me, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite.
I mean, Tyler, I think, is like best at everything. He can fucking slay it anyway. He did the drums on the first two EPs, so you can hear it there. And then on the guitar on the third one. So he's way better at guitar than I ever was at bass or anything. Like, I think everybody right here can play other shit, but the instrument we're currently playing is all what we're best at, with maybe except Tyler, who's just good at everything.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I think Rem said it was like, yeah, we have two good drummers. And like, I know there's a multitude of bands who are like, we have one good drummer in our scene.
Yeah.
And they're in 8 bands right now. So
yeah,
that's too funny. So you guys kind of set things up, and there's been, changes over time. Like I said it at the beginning of the podcast, but the first thing that I had heard from you guys was that little promo video for Relentless Wrath, and that was from that show. Well, the footage was from that show you guys did. I don't know if Tyler actually filmed it. He just threw it up on his story.
He did film it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
yeah, like as soon as like first riff in, I was like, okay, this is already something I'm like into. And then it got released, and then I don't know if it was Nick or someone. I don't know if you guys have someone doing PR, but they like reached out to us. I was like, oh yeah, I'm already in. Like, you don't need to sell me on anything. Like, I'm into VTN. But I wanted to talk about that track specifically because it was a single you guys put out. It wasn't like something you guys put on the EP that came out shortly after. And you guys made it very apparent that you wanted to dedicate it to, rest in peace, Riley from Power Trip. So, I think that was really cool because I think a lot of people just in hardcore, in metal, in, everything in between were feeling that. And, not really, I saw a couple people doing like, whether they were a photographer and they shot Power Trip, they were doing like prints and they were donating that money. So what did you guys want to did you write that song like immediately following? Did you have it in the bank? Like, talk to me about like kind of the behind the scenes of that and how you wanted to package it.
It was honestly just like the next day I just had the idea, I was like, let's write a song. And so I already had a couple riffs in mind that I had. So we went over to Tyler's and kind of just demoed it out, and it just went together super quick and easy. And so we're like, if we could put this out, and without any issues, let's just go ahead and do it. And so it's kind of what we ended up doing, and song turned out great, and Nick just recorded it all. So
yeah, it was purely just like inspired by Power Trip because they're
100%.
Obviously a huge influence on the thrash scene, hardcore, all that. So yeah, when that happened, it was just like, damn, this hits hard. So yeah, we just like the next time we got together, like the next week or a few days after, demoed out the song. And I think the next week we like recorded all of it like here, and then, you know, like mixed it in a week or something. And then we were able to like put it out as soon as it was done. So it was literally just like, it happened super quick, but it was purely just because like we just wanted to do a little tribute just because it meant a lot to us, you know, and they paved the way for a lot of bands like Victim to None and a lot of other hardcore bands. So yeah, it was purely just a tribute. Yeah, we just wanted to do that. And we just, it was a single as its own because we just wanted to be completely separate. We already had most of the EP recorded at that point. We were kind of just doing final touches, but we're like, let's just make a song dedicated to Power Trip, just throw it together and put it out there. And actually we're all really pumped on how the song came out. I'm surprised that it turned out as good as it did, like full writing, production, everything in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy to even hear like the EP that came out, correct me if I'm wrong, in like late summer, and then the EP came out at the very end of November or beginning of December. So it's crazy to have that you guys had all the music for, I guess, the second thing, but you're like, no, we got to shift our focus and prioritize this. And no, I 1,000% agree. Like Power Trip has done, you know, it's very strange to think if there's an alternate timeline where there is no COVID, how many benefit shows would have happened for Riley to raise money, how many people just in general would be like dedicating songs to him, like being someone that films live shows a lot. Like I'm always like I'm not looking, but like those moments to me really, really matter. So I am really interested, like, you know, I know his legacy is going to live on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, like ultimately for the end of time, like if hardcore is still around. But yeah, it should be interesting when shows come back and how like people, you know, reflect on how much that he actually impacted that scene. So as far as the song go, like did you guys get any like messages from people who maybe were like who knew Riley like personally, or like did anything come around on that point, or was it more of just like this is really cool that you guys kind of centered the focus of the song around that?
As far as vocals go, or just in general?
No, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember getting any like anybody being like hitting us up or something or being like, oh, this is really cool. And we weren't doing it to do that, you know what I mean? I guess it was just like an outlet for us. Like that was the way we wanted to express our appreciation and just what we were feeling, I guess. And so we weren't like trying to be like, check it out, this is our tribute to Power Trip. It was just like, hey, we just felt this, we recorded it, so you know, maybe others can share these feelings or something. But yeah, I don't remember getting anything necessarily like I don't know, any like publicity from it or anything, because we weren't trying to. In fact, we were,
that wasn't the goal. Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, not really, but I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I feel like we're mainly like dropping it for ourselves rather than like we didn't want it to be like because I feel like whenever anybody passes, people make it about themselves and, you know, like post selfies of being like, you know, when you didn't even know the fucking person.
Right.
And so for us, it was just like, damn, that was an influential band. They were badass. Like, let's write something thrashy as fuck and, you know, medieval in the name of fucking Power Trip and throw that shit out. And so.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about it and we didn't want the lyrics to be like a memorial or like rest in peace, Riley, like the lyrics. We didn't want to do it like just for that. It was just tribute. And so the lyrics were, like Elliot said, medieval. And you came with us super quick. Yeah.
Well, because I was like, fuck, like based off the shit that we usually write about or the stuff that I focus lyrics around, it was way more simple. It was just like straight medieval combat and warfare. I was like, that's as thrashy as it fucking gets. So like, it's just about like sitting on thrones and having battle axes and fucking shit like that. And I was like, you can whip that shit out fast. So
Yeah, that's very cool. And like, it is really cool just to see, you know, just like, yeah, it was like kind of a way that you guys were kind of like processing that. Like, oh, like I remember when I heard that news, I was like, I, it took me a number of days just to like get my head around that and, you know, like pick up my guitar and just like play some Power Trip songs or just write something that's definitely like Power Trip esque. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm really I still feel for all the rest of the guys in that band and how they're all going through and Riley's family obviously, but yeah, I just wanted to highlight that was a very cool thing that you guys had done in a very um in a humble way that like you were saying you weren't trying to draw attention to you guys specifically. It was like, hey, this is how we feel about this and write some badass music. So
Well, thanks, dude.
yeah, of course. Nick, you had mentioned that earlier in the episode that you even before joining the band you were doing a lot of the the recording and the producing and some of those things. So just talk to me about like, and even just going off what we were just talking about, like the fact that you guys essentially had the infrastructure set up. So it was like, okay, let's record drums, let's do guitars, blah blah blah, mix it. Like everything is in house for you guys. It sounds like so the output of content can be very, very easy and flexible to do so. So tell me about like, the setup and like how you guys have just been able to do things mainly in house and not have to maybe go to a big studio or book time and those things.
Yeah, so the kind of the process that we do for writing new songs is, I mean, both Tyler and I have been recording for like over 10 years. And so for me, it's a lot easier to, because I do it full time recording and Tyler does it basically all the time in his free time.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's easier to like understand and hear things back immediately. You can kind of get a better ear. And we do write some songs jamming out, just like what we're feeling. But I feel like it's more productive for us to like sit down and lay down a riff in a computer and then listen back to it and like, program some drums and kind of get a different feel and fuck with the tempo and everything.
Sure.
So mostly our process is Rem will come up with a riff. I'd say Rem is probably the main songwriter. And then we go to Tyler's, we demo it out at his house, and we all have input, but the majority of the songwriting I feel like is Rem. And then once we feel like it's good, we can get everything down, we'll kind of jam it out, make any adjustments from there. So it's a pretty refined process, I think, after, week after week demoing out stuff and then, jamming it live and saying, okay, well, this part doesn't like groove as much live as we were hoping it would. Recorded, it's a little bit different. And so we'll change things, adjust things. And then once we get to a point where we feel like we're 100%, Tyler will just send me all the stems and stuff so I can just track drums to really nice scratch tracks. Basically, they're already like perfect. We don't have to spend any time. I guess all the pre-production is already done, you know what I mean? So it makes it pretty easy to just come in and lay drums down. Mm-hmm. I can rehearse it as much as I want and then, record drums whenever I want. Like I'll wake up one morning and be like, all right, cool, I'll just do this today. Lay down the drums or whatever. And then like, instead of having band practice, we'll just record guitars that night or something or vocals or whatever. So I don't know, am I missing anything in the process?
Go ahead. I was gonna say sometimes it's that entire process, an entire song, and being like, yeah, that whole song doesn't hit how we want it to. Just scrap the whole fucking song.
We've written a lot of songs where we're like, that's not the best. So it's like we go through a whole process, like refining, and then it's just like, nah, it doesn't
hit as hard as the other ones. Just fucking scrap it.
So we've probably written like twice as many songs we've put out.
But yeah, and that's just always a process of like, a lot of the things that you said like are very, very apparent for my whole process of like demoing out something at home and bringing it to the guys in my band, and then we play it live. I'm like, actually, this part really like needs to be longer, or this part really like let's just cut half this song and split it into two or something like that. So yeah, they're, and it's weird too because right now it's different everywhere in the world. Like some people can get together safely and jam. Some people are in lockdowns and they can't get together and jam unless they want to risk getting a hefty fine slapped on their doorstep. So it's this constant thing where I'm writing a lot of music, but the guys in my band haven't been able to get together and actually just play those songs out and just feel it out, because it's way different than like you were saying, Nick, of having it on your computer versus like we're all in the room and we feel the riff hitting us all in different ways. So
yeah, it's I don't know, it's cool. There's just so many different ways to view doing it like this, and yeah, it works really nice. And then, you know, get an email at the end of every night. We write together with any updates, and then come up with ideas. And next week we meet up, it's like a ton of different ideas. And then when we jam, it's a ton of different ideas. So yeah, it's a pretty refined process. I think it probably sucks for Elliot because we're all constantly making changes. And by the time we're like, "Hey, dude, I think we're good for vocals," you know, he's like, "Okay, are you sure?"
Yeah. Like I've been trying to work on stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody be like, "Oh, well, we'll just change this one thing." And I'm like, "Okay," back to the fucking, because it's like, I try and find like, what would it be? I guess just cadences, or like count out numbers of syllables or whatever that I'd want in just within like a line. Definitely. And then fit the word structure to that, and then so when it's like, we'll just take out this part, or we'll just add this part, I'm like, okay, so I really wait till the last minute to really make sure it's all done. But then that's the shitty part, is because then I wait till like everything's really done and everybody's like, okay, cool, we're good to put it out. I'm like, shit. So then I have to play vocal catch up. And then like 2 months will go by. They're like, are you done? I'm like, fuck no. And then
yeah, it's a very feast or famine kind of situation. Like you don't want to just, like you said, like the last thing that anyone wants is to like put effort into something and then it just is totally like gone by the time it actually matters. So yeah, but I'm sure a lot of vocalists have that same struggle with just, you know, bands just trying to make sure the music is on the instrument side 1,000%, and then the vocals can be added onto it. I want to talk to you, Elliot, about the vocals and the lyrics, but to make sure we do things in order, Rem, you were mentioning kind of earlier as far as like tone wise, you know, you're a tone wizard, you're after that on the constant. Talk to me about just like the tone that you wanted to, you know, have on this release, because I listened to everything today and there was definitely I think the word you used was like a more vintage sounding approach for like heavy music. So talk to me about those things.
Well, yeah, so the past couple EPs we put out, I used a lot of PV amps, you know what I mean? And so with this EP, I wanted to definitely try a different style of guitar head. So we went with the Laney VH100R. And that's like a super old, you know, vintage, made over in the UK. So that's kind of what I was after. And then just I didn't want like too much gain, but I wanted just the right enough amount for our fast thrashy parts and then our heavy parts as well. Sure. And then adding in that 80s vibe with like the chorus pedal. So it's just something we kind of wanted to try different. I feel like it turned out pretty well. So
yeah, no, I definitely, I think the, you know, Will to Live being the first single off of that, you know, just even the first main chord, when you strum that through, it's like, oh, there's definitely something that isn't 6505-esque for this type of music. So I think that direction that you guys did was really cool. And I haven't seen a Laney probably in like at least 10 years. Like it's been a long time.
Yeah,
that guitar, dude.
Yeah, I feel like no one really uses those. Everybody goes towards the 5150, you know, the classic PV or, you know, anything like that. But which is great tone, you know. I just wanted something different, so yeah, I feel like we hit it out of the park with that. So
yeah, was it a team? The Hollywood?
What, the guitar?
Yeah, the team.
Yeah,
that first one, the red one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just like everything. I feel like in the beginning, we're finding like cool old like 80s shit and being like, damn, we could use this. Like,
yeah.
It was just like thrashy as fuck, just like this. It was a Dean, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the first guitar that we messed with was a Dean Hollywood Z.
Yeah.
Super old. No one
Yeah,
ever plays on those. It had a Taylor bridge. I mean, I still have it. And I still thrash on that. I actually used that guitar to do the recordings in Relentless Wrath.
Cool.
I traded some like random ass sketchy dude at my apartment for that.
I know. I remember.
What?
And I was like, you can have it. Yeah, it was just like some
break down that story. I need
well,
to
it
hear
was
that.
just it was just some
Okay, so here's we found the guitar. I hit up the guy to try to see if he'd like do a trade with what I had.
Yeah.
And he kind of blew me off and was kind of being a dick. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I asked Elliot, I was like, hey, Elliot, let's see if
I had that flying V.
he had a flying V. So I was like, hey, see if he'll trade you for that. And then maybe we'll trade.
Yeah.
And so
we'll do the
Elliot
switcheroo. Yeah.
so Elliot hit this guy up and he actually was like, yeah, I'm down to trade you for the flying V. So Elliot gets the red guitar.
He comes in my fucking apartment.
Yeah.
And cranks up my amp and is like jamming this fucking flying V. I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out. But like then the people beneath me, if I walk too loud, they're all pissed. And this dude's like cranking up that actually the amp you sold me. Yeah, back and forth. That was way back when we very first met. I bought an amp off of Nick.
Yeah. Well, your name in my phone is still Elliot Kid because I don't know your last name.
Elliot Kid, just that kid, just that dude that wanted to buy the zebra print.
Yeah, but I bought it from a friend, and like the guy he got it from, it was this Marshall amp. It was a solid state, and they had got like silver Sharpie and like made it a zebra like print on.
No.
So they did like black zebra.
Yeah.
And the rest of it was silver Sharpie.
And you didn't care, and then I didn't fucking care, and then
So Rem, you originally found out about this guitar guy through like Craigslist or something?
No, it was, I can't remember if it was KSL or if it was just on the Facebook Marketplace. I just found it somehow.
Oh, okay. And then you, like, how did you find out that he was in the same? Wait, no. He didn't live in the building that Elliot did. He just came.
No.
He
He insisted on doing the trade in the apartment.
Yeah.
I was like,
and ripped the amp to 11.
yeah, he was kind of sketchy, dude.
What did he look
He
like?
just like what?
What did he look like?
He was definitely like a trench coat type.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's what I was picturing.
I don't know if he was in a trench coat, but he was definitely trench coat material.
He could have taken off his other clothes, and there would be a trench coat as like the main layer. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. Is there any other weird Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist encounters that you guys have? Because like, naturally buying used gear, you're gonna run into like some weirdos through that.
God, I'm trying to think.
I don't know.
I don't ever do them at my house, really.
Yeah, I stopped doing him at the house.
Anytime, I just
meet up at a Walmart or some shit.
Walmart or Home Depot or something.
Right.
I don't know. I did have a guy, I guess I was selling a pair of kick pedals, and the guy was like, hey, can you meet me this day? And then like last minute was like, sorry, can you meet tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And it was probably like an hour drive. And so I go down and he's like, we go just meet in this parking lot. And I'm like, yeah, here's the kick pedals, He's like, cool. Is it cool if I like borrow them and try them out? And I was like, no. And he's like, okay. And he like sits down and like tries to like, he's like playing with them.
What?
And I'm like,
In
this
the
is so
parking
weird.
lot?
Yeah, like against nothing to like the air. And he's like, okay. He's like, and then he's like, yeah, I live like 5 minutes away. And I'm like, why did you make me drive like an hour here? And then he's like, all right, dude, well, yeah, I'll let you know next time I get paid if I want to buy them. And I'm like, dude, what the heck? Like, it was like the most inconvenient thing. I was like, I'm not selling these pedals to this guy, dude. Like, he made me drive an hour just to be like, all right, maybe.
You're looking
Like,
There's a number of people just like that went for groceries that day, and they're driving away, and they just see this kid with the double kick.
Yeah. Dude, it was like,
What's going on?
yeah, it was like a Zupa's parking lot, but it was like nighttime. Dude, it was so weird. I was just like, wow, thanks for taking up my whole night. I can like drive for 2 hours.
That's too funny. He's now watching this podcast and being like, "Damn, those could have been my pedals."
I know, he probably hates
cool
me.
band.
Yeah.
To kind of transition back to the EP, we've talked about a little bit about the tone, which I think is a huge part of just like the kind of painting the picture of the music. Elliot, can you talk to me just about the lyrical direction and the vocals? I think something that I realized when I heard that, and maybe it was just "Will to Live" was like the single, and that just like fully latched me on. It was just like the lyrical direction that you focus on is a lot more just like, bettering yourself and like more positive than like maybe, Relentless Wrath, which is a lot more just like medieval monsters and sword fighting. So yeah. So tell me a little bit about like what you wanted to write about and some favorite lines or anything like that.
I feel like ever since the beginning, like picking the name, like Victim to None, that's been the common thread throughout everything, is just the ownership of your own life, and I think in today's day and age, victimhood mentality is so easily just like a scapegoat. And don't get me wrong, everybody has their own shit that they deal with, and some people are dealt like terrible cards, but at the end of the day, realistically, the only way anything's going to happen is if you grab it by the reins and you do something about it yourself. And I think that most of the lyrics are really about, overcoming and just like self-empowerment, really. I think a lot of vocals lyrics, I should say, are just come from a place that I don't super resonate with, just like blaming the man all the time or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's old school way of writing, but it's just, I just don't resonate with it personally, I think. And so that's just been a really common thread throughout everything that I've written lyrically so far. As far as favorite if I had to pick actually like a lyric that was one of my favorites,
Victim to None.
Yeah. Classic.
When we say the band name.
It's actually one that we were undecided on throwing at the end of a song, because I just like kind of say the words really quick and the song's done with. It was The Reaper Comes and You Reap What You Sow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I liked that a lot because it was just, I thought it was a simple way of just saying, everybody dies, but at least be a good person. I mean, like in a watered down way.
Sure.
She's all tap dancing across the floor. But I think self-empowerment and accountability. I think accountability is huge. I think I just have a really strong feeling towards a lot of those I don't know emotions, I guess, that I think are really overlooked in today's day and age. Like I said, accountability, like at the end of the day, you're accountable for what you do in your life and what you achieve and what you don't achieve. And you can't point the finger at somebody else. And instead of having it be about, it's like on steroids when it's like the opposite of weakness, like, and that's for also like the dramatic effect of the music, but it is really just like, strength, power, finding your own strength, finding your own inner power, and just being able to crush it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I think like a lot of, bands that really set the stage for, like what a lot of bands now are like inspired by as far as like lyrical content. Like there was a lot of bands that I was getting into that was very focused on positivity. And I think that's like bands that are like, who are focused on that, at least for me, it like I could love the music. It could be any genre, but if it's like if it's something that I like am emotionally connecting with and I can see myself in some of those words and those lines, then it's like, it's cemented.
Yeah.
It it's I don't like. There's definitely been times where it's like a borderline like diss track kind of hardcore song where it's like you wronged me in this. Like, yeah, there's been plenty of times where I've heard those songs and like, yeah, like there have been people in my life who have done that, but exactly like you said, I think there's been a little bit of a shift where there's just been, you can point the finger as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you're accountable to yourself and your own well-being, and just, like pointing the finger doesn't really get you anywhere. Complaining doesn't really get you anywhere. It's where you take the good, bad, and ugly of your life, and then go and make change and be the bigger person or the better person or what have you.
Totally. I mean, there are songs that are definitely about smoking people, but but I mean, you're also doing it yourself and not complaining about it. So I think that's really, it's like it is the positivity vibe within like self-fulfillment and like I said, taking your own life into your own hands. But I mean, 100%, there's songs about, smoking people or fucking warfare or whatever it is. And those have their place also. I think it's really just about, I think it's more about embodying being the doer and not being the talker.
Yeah. Comeback Kid was, a huge band for me growing up, especially, growing up in the city that band started. And so like listening to Talk Is Cheap on repeat for many years of my life really drilled that into my brain. Like, it's one thing to say something or like, just talk the talk, but like actually like showing up and doing the damn thing is a whole nother beast of its own. So
yeah. And on the flip side, like there's some songs that are about like how we were talking about like traumatic things that would happen for people. Like I don't think that those things don't exist, obviously, but one of the songs is about like taking those things and like, hardening yourself, like growing from them and becoming just a better person because of that, essentially just like harder to kill, to put it like it's, I don't dislike I don't dislike any of the PMA stuff. But like my attitude going into writing isn't honed in that space.
Sure.
It's honed in like, I guess like be resilient. Times get hard but they get hard for fucking everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's had their own shit that, for them is monstrous, or huge. And it's like, I think it's really about just being resilient. Yeah,
there's a plethora of like hardcore songs, just top 40 songs that are so just like, what's the term that I want to use? Just out of
poppy?
Touch. Yeah, or poppy, but just like out of touch to the realities that a lot of people go through. And like you were saying, like everyone's dealt different cards like the minute that they're born, whether they have a like a physical or mental illness day one, or that's something that comes later in life. Maybe they don't have an ideal like upbringing. Some people might be really privileged. So
poverty, anything.
Yeah. There's so many layers, but like seeing the cards that you have and being like, okay, like how can I fulfill myself? Whether that's happiness, like a life goal or something like that. But how do I also just like better the community and the world that I'm, a part of ultimately, versus being so down on your luck because XYZ. So yeah, I love all of that. I love all that.
Cool. Hell yeah.
Did I interrupt someone?
No, I was just gonna say, I like one of the things I love about hardcore is, I mean, I always say that I think music is like how good it is measured by the emotional impact the song can deliver. And I think that's like why a lot of pop songs lack, because they're just singing about whatever, partying, whatever. But like in hardcore especially, I feel like really all the vocals are said with such conviction, and it's just easier to relate to. And I feel like Elliot does a really good job when he's delivering, when we're tracking vocals. He's like pretty on it. We don't really have to redo that many takes. Unless his voice cracks or some weird shit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the emotional like impact and delivery, while tone is important, the songs are cool and everything, I don't think that Victim to None or any band really would be as important if it wasn't for singing with conviction and like, that emotional impact. So props to Elliot for pulling that off.
Yeah, like people wouldn't be jumping off of PA speakers if it was just cool music. It's got to be the cool music plus the lyrics and the why behind all of that to just make someone like act that primitive. So
yeah, what I'm saying is the tone doesn't matter at all.
Wrapping up, tone doesn't matter. Obviously, tone matters. As far as like the songwriting, I brought it up a little earlier. As far as the EP that you guys were doing, you wanted, in the world of a pandemic and not being able to like put out music and then people listen to that and then go to the show and show you like how much it means to them, whether it's through the lyrics or the musicianship, what have you. The quote again was, you guys wanted to make a pissed off record that people can jam front to back and still get the energy of live music without going to a live show. And, like I have jammed the EP myself front to back many, many times. I love when either a record or an EP just has a perfect loop. There's not like a lot of the songs that you guys did for that release, there's not like, here's the guitar ringing or like the super long sample. It's like very like, let's go. Like we got 12 minutes. We're going to just pack it full of riffs and good times. So, when you guys were like thinking about, parts and just like the delivery themselves on that, like, was that a little different on some of the other releases? Because it was like, we really want to just like make it feel like put that extra effort in so it actually feels like you're there in the room when Elliot is screaming at your face to be hard to kill or something.
I don't know if it was that was like, I don't know, at least like I was super aware of that when we were writing it, at least.
Sure.
I think it's said really cool though, honestly, like that. But I think it was just
like bullshit. Yeah, it was just no bullshit.
Yeah, we kind of just decided like. I had a few little ideas that I kind of wanted to try out, and then in the end, we all just decided, it's like, let's just keep this no bullshit, like straight to the point. We did a little different things we did from the other EPs, but it just flowed really well. So
yeah, we just want to make a ripper front to back. Like there's no duds on it at all. There's no parts where you're like, all right, let's skip to the next song. Where I like the cool little like instrumental shit that we've done on the other records. The two other EPs, there's some cool stuff, and it's like, it's a cool vibe. But on this one, we're like, let's just make it a fucking ripper from front to back, like no duds at all, no boring shit. Not that those other spots are boring, but it's just like it hits you hard the whole time. So yeah, that was very intentional when we like pretty early on when we were writing it.
Yeah, like nothing is worse than, I don't know, like I think just my overall patience for song length is going down the older I get. And so like the fact that a lot of those songs were a minute 30, 2:12, like some of those like time frames, it was just like my attention is captivated for this entire record, which is very, very cool. And a lot of the songs like so naturally flow into one another, which I think for crossover is like such an important thing. Like in hardcore, it can just be like the song stops and then the next song starts. But like I think bands that are influenced by more thrashier are like thinking about like how can we just have it flow and be like a free flowing idea, but it's 7 or 8 songs. So
yeah, that was, I don't know, that kind of came together. There was like a couple where we're like, yeah, this would be cool going into this one. But I don't know, it kind of happened pretty naturally. It's kind of easy to do when there's no filler shit, you know? It's just
Yeah.
right to the next one. So I don't know how it wasn't like,
I mean, we
it was easy to do.
Yeah, we switched a few things around, and it kind of just was the way we almost wrote it too, you know. So kind of just it came out that way, and in which order the songs came out, you know. Like I said,
Yeah.
I think we switched a couple things up, but it was for the better. You know?
We tried different songs in different places just to see what was really gonna sound the best as a whole piece all the way through.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned the song length because we were gonna release a single on like Spotify before it came out. It's a song VTN,
Yep.
and it's less than a minute long. It's just
30 seconds.
yeah. And Spotify was like, no, this is too short to be a single. So we're like, all right, fuck it, we'll just put out the video.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's so
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know that was a rule, but whatever.
It's
Fine.
a short fucking song, but I think it's my favorite song. I love it.
Yeah, like I don't know. Spotify is wacky for a lot of reasons that we won't get into this podcast as far as like how they're compensating musicians in general, but I think they have some wacky rules because I remember there's a band from Calgary here called Wake. I don't know if you guys fuck with death metal or things like that, but they called it a mini LP. So it was 3 songs, but one song was 13 minutes, one song was 7, and then another was 5. So it's like an LP's worth of music, but because it's 3 tracks, it's in the singles and EP category of their Spotify. And they're like, do we put another song on there to like push it to like a full release? But they were like, no, like whatever. Like that's their problem. We'll just call it a mini LP. So it's very strange.
It is weird trying to figure out like I don't know, how many songs we put out, what is going to be people's attention span, like what's the best format, what does Spotify want us to do? I mean, not that we care about that or like keep that in mind when we're writing shit,
but you have to consider it. Like you have to, that's where your music is going to live and people are going to be engaging with it. Like you have to think about that, whether you like Spotify or not.
Yeah, I hate that Spotify labels like 3 songs EPs as singles sometimes. I hate that.
Yeah.
You have to like scroll to the bottom to get to an EP or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with Wake. It was like, it's like oh, there it is. So
yeah.
As far as, do you guys have like a favorite part from the EP that, once you guys can play those songs live, you're just dying to have that like lead up into this breakdown or things like that? Let's ask Tyler because I haven't heard from him in a bit. He's like, oh shit.
I'm super excited to play BTN live. Like, I think that song's gonna get a pretty crazy reaction. That's like my personal favorite from the release too.
Cool.
So that's gonna be super cool.
Yeah. The whole song is it's like one part. So
yeah. One part, then it slows down that one part.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Ian? Do you have a specific bass
Embrace
solo part?
for sure.
Okay.
The last song, it just is a fucking ripper. Everything about it's badass. Even the way it ends, I fucking love it. It's just
I was just gonna say the way it ends was like one of my favorites, just because it ends with straight bass, and like I don't know, not a lot of bands really do that, or it's something different that we, tried to do with ending a song, just straight bass and drums. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, it's funny. We actually had like feedback in a few different spots on the record and going along with like the no bullshit, cut the fat. Like we actually ended up getting rid of it. That was one of the parts, the end of it. We're going to have like bass and drums and then feedback going. We're like, nah, trim the fat.
Yep.
Just right to it. So
yeah, and even like Will to Live just starts. It's not like a ring in. It's just the bass and the drums just add it. Just like we're gonna like build up the song, and then you guys will come in later.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other specific parts or different things that you guys are like just itching for when shows come back?
just the whole fucking EP.
Yeah.
Just every song, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really want
bomb, dude.
we were like so stoked because like I mean we jam all the time. We get together once a week, and so we're jamming these songs like all year, waiting for shows. And jamming our old songs, we're like, fuck yeah, we've got these 6 new songs. They're gonna be so badass to play, gonna be fresh material. And yeah, we haven't got to play them out yet, so we're just stoked to play the whole thing. But I'm excited to play Reap What You Sow, because that song is so fast and challenging on drums. And yeah, it's just like so energetic. But I love Elliot's vocals on it too. And I don't even think we've jammed that song all the way with like vocals.
Yeah.
Like just jamming yet. So but yeah, Embrace the Pain is so stompy and just like, yeah, I just see people stomping around to that one.
Which was it in California that we winged it and played?
Perpetual Fool.
Perpetual
So Perpetual Fool is actually the oldest song of the EP. We wrote that first.
Okay.
And we actually played that out in California. And at the time, Elliot was like, I don't know if we should play it. I can't remember the vocals.
It was so early.
So the whole drive out there, he's trying to remember the vocals, and he's like, I don't know if we can do it. But it actually turned out pretty good. We did it, and people ended up loving that song.
Everybody's like, let's play it in San Jose. And I was like, dude, I do not fucking have it down. I was like, I'm not trying to look fucking dumb. Let's not play it. Everybody
Let's not be a fool and do this.
Yeah. Everybody was so mad at me. I was like, dude, I do not have it down yet. I'm gonna fuck it up. And then they're like, all right, if we don't play it tonight, we're fucking playing it tomorrow in Bakersfield. And I was like, all right, fair enough.
You're like, okay, so, that's that.
So we did, and I probably fucked some shit up, but it was fun.
Yeah. It wasn't out, so no one can really say aside from exactly. You. Yeah.
Nobody knew I fucked up besides me.
That's the accountability in play. You're like, I fucked up, but no one else knows, but I know that I did.
Exactly. Responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, like to go back to what Nick said, like there was like I genuinely like every song on it, but Reap What You Sow is like, in my opinion, like a perfect crossover song. Like it has so many moments where it's just like it goes straight into it, like just the slide or the scratch or whatever. And my personal favorite part is when there's like the ooh, and then it's the drums really slow, and then like you blink, and then it's like the fastest bell ride part that you can imagine. So yeah, no, I like, and I don't just say it because you guys are on the podcast. Like that record itself is like inspiring me with a lot of my songwriting because I'm in a very similar space. So like, riffs, drums, placement of different things. That is, being influenced in for me as well. So I have to just applaud you guys for just putting together a really awesome EP. And, it was so important for me to like highlight that, Nick and I have been talking about doing this for a long, long ass time. So I'm glad that we're finally chatting about it.
Yeah. Thanks for always supporting us, dude. You're always giving us shout outs and like so much. It's crazy. I'm like, oh, there's another one from Spencer and So dude, thank you for all the support, especially this last year where we haven't really been able to do anything. So
well, yeah. If there's any, if there's anything that we can do once shows come back and, Utah homies can come up to Canada and play some shows, like I would love to make that happen. I did want to ask before we start to wrap up here. Utah is like a gorgeous state. I was watching, my wife is into these like renovation like shows that Netflix and Amazon Prime have, and there's one that was based in Utah, and it was like right around the time that we started talking about this. I was like, man, Utah is like pretty much like, you guys are super close to the mountains, so like it feels very similar to like where I live in like Calgary. Like driving to the mountains is like a 40-minute drive away. So like, is that kind of the same as far as like the landscape?
It's like closer. 20 minutes, 15 minutes. You're in the mountains.
You're in the thick of the mountains.
That's crazy.
In Salt Lake at least.
Yeah.
I love Utah. I mean, I think I've been to like something like 46 out of the 50 states. Because I did like a big US tour in 2018. But dude, yeah, I was like, okay, well, I wonder what's like the coolest state. And I do think it's Utah. It's so diverse. I mean, like you can drive like an hour and a half and get to the salt flats where it's just nothing but salt, or drive 20 minutes, go like hiking in like, Aspen forest, and then drive, like 2 or 3 hours south. And then you've got like the archways and like the red rocks. It's such a dynamic state, and like the geography is beautiful here. So
Yeah.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah, it was like, and I just wasn't sure if it was because, these renovation shows were in these like really like bougie parts of, Salt Lake City, where it's like very, very close to the mountains, and it's like, no, like there's a bunch of neighborhoods around, but like it was crazy. It's like they're playing in their back, like the host is like playing in their backyard with their kid, and it's like this giant ass mountain like right there. So like, I always see the mountains on my when I drive my wife into work, when it's granted it's clear, it's not overcast, but like the fact that it was like, that felt like it was like times like 10 from what I have right now. So that's very, very cool.
Everybody here definitely takes it for granted. If you ever live out of state and come back, like, oh shit, the mountains are fucking huge,
For sure.
right there.
Right.
Yeah, we always make fun of people who like I don't know, like, oh, the California mountains or something, or I don't know, like we see these like little hills and they're like, check out that mountain. I'm like, that's not a mountain. Like in TV shows or documentaries or whatever, they're always finding these little hills and they call mountains.
Yeah. No, it's you take it for granted what you have at your disposal all the time. So for me, I grew up in Winnipeg, which is like, it's called the prairies of Canada, and it's just flat. Like from driving from Winnipeg to the next major city, which is like Regina in Saskatchewan, it's just flat. There's nothing nice to look at on that drive for 8.5 hours. But like coming out here, like when it's summertime, like me and my wife are like out almost like every other weekend if we can, sometimes every week. In the summertime, we're doing tons of hikes, camping, all into like the BC when you're actually in the mountains. But yeah, like meeting people who are like born and raised here, they're like, oh yeah, I haven't been to Banff in like a couple of years. I'm like, what? Like, why? why? Utah, as far as like hardcore is concerned, that was something that I wanted, I'm always kind of curious with bands that, are from a more underdog kind of state where it doesn't have like your general like hardcore clout, so to speak, like Los Angeles or New York or Florida. I think the only band from Salt Lake, and just correct me if I'm wrong, that I know of is, they're not a band anymore, but I filmed Liar's Tongue when they played Snow and Flurry Fest. That band's from Utah.
Yeah. Dudes were in it.
It's funny. Yeah, I used to be in it. He used to be a part of it.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of you guys played Snow and Flurry 2019. Like you weren't in the band at that time. Okay.
Tyler
did.
Yeah, bass. Yeah, I played bass.
bass at that.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I have to go back and watch that set and be like, oh, that is Tyler.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Is there any other cool bands from Utah that you feel like aren't as known because it's, it again, like Utah isn't like a place that people think of for hardcore on like a global aspect?
Yeah, there's a few cool bands. I mean, Mandalore is really cool. Fight the Future is one of my favorites. They're really punky. I'm trying to think. It's been so long.
There's a band called Crow Killer. They're a little bit more on the heavier side, but they're kind of up there too. There's just not a whole lot of options out here, but those are them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands that start up and have a good like few months running and then just kind of die out. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm sure that happens everywhere, but there's not a lot of bands that like. I think if you can make it over a year in Salt Lake, like that's pretty notable.
Yeah, and here, like, I don't know, I felt like Liar's Tongue kind of paving the way for more like crossover thrashy stuff. To be able to like start being played here, because everybody was just really like 90s metalcore stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And then it was funny, we were talking to some of our friends in Easy Money and some of those guys, and then being like, Salt Lake's always just has like riffy ass stuff, and we're like, damn, that's like we do not see that as the perception.
Right.
Like from our side, it's like there's like one or two like riffier crossover bands and like a sea of like metalcore bands, which yeah.
They love the like beat down shit here.
Totally.
I don't know, like
forever.
I tried doing a youth crew band years ago, and I feel like nobody gave a shit about it at all.
it was like just only crowd killing.
Like, how do I punch other people to this? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like people don't circle pit here or anything. It's just like fucking hit as many people in the crowd and just heavy music to do that. So yeah, it's kind of weird, but
yeah, that's always a struggle with like a band. Like every scene is gonna have like a more popular genre of hardcore or heavy music that, you know, either just people locally are, you know, they see the top band, if you want to call it that, and then they write, you know, the music that surrounds that. You know, Endgame is very similar to that, where like there's a lot of metalcore and metallic hardcore in Alberta in general. And I was like, I want like a power trip style band with riffs and like Trapped Under Ice style like breakdown kind of things. So like we've had like and I think sometimes it works in your favor, because when shows are being booked, it's like, okay, we want a heavy band, we want, you know, a more punk band. But if you're the only band in one, you know, call it subgenre, like you might get more opportunities, or you might get better responses because, you know, people are like, oh, I can actually mosh to this band versus like, oh, I'm not into like just crowd killing everyone in sight.
Yeah.
So,
but I think we fit well with those because we have the heavy moshy parts, but we also got the groovy or the thrashy parts. So
definitely
we kind of have it all, I think. But
yeah, I think we like from day one here, at least in Salt Lake, playing like local shows to switch it up and start playing a different style. Like because all like the older dudes here like joke with us, like nobody used to fucking two-step here because it was literally just like straight up handing out ass beatings, like old school, just fucking people up. And and so they like give us shit about like people two-stepping, but then it just like we got a good response from like day one.
Yeah.
People were like, oh shit, like we don't have to go to, you know, California or whatever, wait for a touring band. We just, you know, play a show here and people fucked with it. Granted, we're friends with everybody. So I guess we're just playing for like 50 or 40 of our own friends. So, but
yeah. No, yeah, I think that's all really, really cool. Like, I think that there are definitely like places, I think in general, like just going to different parts of like North America or just even the world, if you want to travel to Europe and see what hardcore is outside of your own local bubble, I think that like adds a lot of perspective when you like come home and you're like, oh, like I have to really take things for granted here because I went over there and there's like, you know, like there's a way bigger scene, or like you just learn more versus like, oh, I've gone to like 10 local shows, like I know everything. Like, you know, I was that way, like getting into it where I was like, oh yeah, like I have a good handle on things. And then as soon as I did like a little tour or I went to a festival in the States, it was like, yeah, like I know a little bit more, but I'm realizing how much more there's to learn. Same thing with this podcast, just having people on and talking like, you know, with bands from Singapore, and it's like, oh, you don't have basements to jam in, like you're in apartment buildings and things like that. So like learning about hardcore just makes you realize like there is so much just to, you know, wet your palate with. So yeah, that's all very cool. Hopefully I can get down there to see you know, just a Utah show and just kind of see what that's all about. I would love to see the mountains just that much closer as well.
Yeah, you're welcome to come. I've got an open room if you want to ever come down here, man. So
most definitely. So guys, we can start to wrap up the show. The last section that we do is a favorite mosh story that we would like to share. And lucky for all the listeners, we got 5 different you know, people with different stories and experiences. So yeah, don't be shy. Whoever wants to go first. And the story doesn't need to necessarily be like, I did this, or it happened at one of our shows. It could be like whatever's the first thing to your mind, whether it involves you or not.
Shit, I'll go first. I got one.
Yeah.
We played in I think it was Fresno. And Nick here lost like $70 or something like that, or he found out that he was missing money. And the show, there wasn't like a whole lot of people doing anything. Everybody was kind of just watching the bands. And Nick comes inside from the van, figured out he lost all this money, and just starts losing his shit in the pit, and then falls straight on his face and just lays there. Like way longer than he should have.
I was like, I made an ass of myself. I'm just gonna fucking lay here.
Like in the middle of the pit in front of fucking everybody.
Of course,
So you,
It was so funny.
It was so funny.
But I think the funniest part is that like you just stay there knowing you're like, fuck it, I'll be here for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's make it over.
Yeah, you're like, let's make it awkward intentionally.
so you were just pitting out of frustration that you couldn't find the 70.
It was during no right set.
It was
It
right.
was, yeah, it was like it was like, it wasn't just the $70, but I was having a shitty day, and I was like, I'm gonna, and then I think the $70 was just what, the straw that broke the
camel's back for sure.
I'm gonna go let this out, and yeah, I just fall on my face, and I'm like, okay.
Jeez, no, I love that. Who's next? Who's got another one?
God, hard to top that one, huh, fellas?
Fuck, for real.
Yeah, in the podcast, cut.
Yeah. Take it away. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Oh shit, I don't know, dude.
Did you have your boot on still during that?
That was Fresno.
Oh, okay.
Everything happened in Fresno.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because he was in a cast.
Yeah, I had ankle surgery the day before we left for Fresno.
Smart move. For
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
smart move.
Playing a show, kind of walking.
So
I
I
would
just-
recommend, yeah.
I walked up with crutches.
There's nothing cooler than a vocalist standing in a boot, screaming about hardcore shit.
With the crutch in the other arm.
Yeah.
I didn't have the crutch. I was using the fucking support stand.
Yeah, using the mic stand as his crutch holding it.
They're like, when did
Yeah.
you have surgery? I was like 2 days ago. Go ahead. Tell the story.
I don't know. I had one, but
Take it away, dude.
I mean, I think the first time I ever saw Elliot was Trash Talk was playing Kilby Court, and I just see it was this kid. It was just stupid pit beef. He hit the wrong person or some shit, and then I just see Elliot and his lanky ass arms just swinging at this dude, just start to fucking pound him, and I'm like, whoa. This guy's kind of an asshole. Just ruined that kid's night.
He was a big fucker too, dude. That guy was like legit. He was probably you fucking hopped in.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that kid was like 6'4",
Yeah.
bro, 6'5", jacked out of his mind.
It wasn't a kid, a grown ass man.
That was a
Grown ass
grown-ass
man.
man.
That was a grown-ass man. Yeah.
I mean, there's the infamous Code Orange played in this teeny ass venue, and some girl got her jaw broken by like a stage dive or something.
It was
Is that when they did that benefit shirt?
that's Salt
Yeah.
Lake.
Oh, that's Salt Lake. Oh,
That's
okay.
Salt Lake.
Yeah.
That is infamous.
Yeah, the
People would be like,
broken jaw.
shit, that fucking happened at Salt Lake? I was like, yeah, we fucking watched it.
Wow.
But-
Oh, that shit happened.
I don't know, man. That girl, she was kind of out of line, but it is what it is. She was like socking people in the face, bro.
She was crowd killing.
She was crowd killing. Nobody had ever seen her. Not to say that.
Everybody in Salt Lake crowd kills.
Yeah, everybody in Salt Lake
Right,
crowd
right,
kills.
okay, what happened?
Nobody, nobody knew who she was, and then she was in the pit during Code Orange, and it was like ignorant as fuck.
Yeah.
And like grown men were getting knocked out, and I'm not like dragged out constantly. Like the whole show, people were just dragging people out by the arms because people were just like knocked out back to back to back. And then I was like, dude, she weighed like 110 pounds. Like you're gonna get fucking smoked. And sure enough, man,
Yeah. Damn.
she got smoked.
Yeah.
I've got another good story. I don't
Sure.
know if any of you guys were at this show. It was On Broken Wings was like opening for Bring Me the Horizon in like 2000 2008 or 2009,
Club
some
Sound,
shit like
right?
that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And earlier in the night, there's like a balcony where you can go up if you're above 21 and drink. And people were throwing their beer bottles in the pit. And so people were getting pretty heated. And earlier in the night, they like stormed the upstairs balcony and was like, I don't know what happened. I didn't go up. I was under 21, so I didn't go up there.
Yeah.
But so I think it was just the crowd is kind of rowdy, and like Bring Me the Horizon came on, and it was like 2 songs in, and I think people were just being ignorant, pitting and shit, and Bring Me the Horizon stopped the show. And the guy thought he was being a tough guy just because he had a mic, and he was like calling people out. He's like, if you don't like our band, fuck you. Fuck this off. And he's like,
what a spot on Ollie impression.
Dude. Yeah, he's like, if you don't like our band, fuck you. Go home, fuck you. And he starts like spitting into the crowd and shit. And then a bunch of people like rush the stage.
Oh,
fucking,
shit.
He got punched. And then security was like on it really quick.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
And they haven't been back since, actually.
Shocker.
Yeah.
So
He's like, where in the States does this tour route suck? Like, no, we will not play there.
Go around them.
Go around. That's too funny. Yeah. I've I don't know. At least for me, I've really dropped off the Bringing the Horizon stuff. Like all the power to them doing the radio rock stuff now, but yeah, it's definitely come like from the slimy mess that was that deathcore scene, and now it's like it's crazy that like I remember I would go to like an NHL like Winnipeg Jets game, and they would be playing over the intercom, and I'd be like, this is so weird. And my dad's like, what? It's like some band or something. I'm like, no, it's like this band used to like have ridiculous t-shirts and like do pig squeals and stuff, and now they're fucking crazy band.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah. I don't think there's like any other band that has gone that like far in that kind of transition that way. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But we won't give Bring Me the Horizon any more time on this podcast. Guys, this has been really, really fun. I've said this multiple times, but majorly think you guys are doing something really, really good music-wise, and I hope to see that in a live setting, whether it's you coming up out here or me going down there or meeting somewhere in the middle. All of your guys' socials and Bandcamp links and all that will be in the description of the video and in the show notes, but if there's anything you want to plug, send people off with, now is your time to do that.
I don't know, just keep supporting, I guess, supports Scoped Exposure. I don't know. No Right, Drain.
Yeah.
All the new up and coming bands. It's good shit going on. So
Big love to all the Bay Area bands.
Yep.
Easy Money.
Yep. I think that's it.
That's it.
I think that's it.
My parents, if they're listening, I'm just kidding.
Thanks for bringing us fun. Dude, when we were at the old jam space and it would be like playing so fucking loud and I'd have to go to the bathroom and I'd come up and they're just like contently like sitting there watching TV and it's just loud as fuck.
Yeah, we used to jam.
And I was like, dude, you guys are champs.
We used to jam in my parents' basement. Yeah, and they would just put up with it. But I've also been playing drums since I was 10, so they've just dealt with constant noise. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know how you guys deal with this. One time my dad came down and was like, can you turn it down a little bit? And I was like, Dad, I can't turn down my drums.
Right.
That was when the cops got called.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cops are just here. Can you turn it down a bit? And you're like, no. No. Can't. Can you guys just jam quieter? You're like, it's not how it works.
Yeah. Well, shout out to all the parents having jam spaces for, a band is, big or small. Like I said, guys, thanks for coming on the podcast and jamming with me. This has really been really, really fun.
Right on. Likewise. Thanks for having us, dude, and all the support. Appreciate it.
Of course.